Welcome to Get the Facts, the program that provides you with information on government policies and initiatives. I'm Theodore Henry. Our focus today is equal rights for persons with disabilities. Enforcement of this is supported by the Disabilities Act, which came into effect on February 14 this year. To explore the benefits to the disabled community and the wider society's role is Executive Director of the Jamaica Council for Persons with Disabilities, Dr. Christine Hendricks. Welcome back to the program, Dr. Hendricks.
Thank you for having me.
Wonderful.
Theodore.
Let's jump right in. It's been a long process.
It has been.
It's been a long process. I'm sure JCPD is happy.
We are excited.
Excited, not just happy,
Yes.
but excited. What
Yeah.
does this mean for the agency?
It means that the agency, now a body corporate, statutory body, it means that it has greater powers in terms of ensuring the implementation of the Disabilities Act.
Yes.
It should be providing to persons not only with disabilities but the society guidelines on how to ensure inclusion of persons with disabilities, so codes of practice and reviewing those codes, and also facilitating a complaints mechanism for persons with disabilities who feel that they have been discriminated against.
Okay. All right. So there's a lot there to unpack.
Yes.
But one of the things I want to point out and just pick at a little bit, you mentioned codes of practice. So JCPD is now given the authority to create these codes?
So as the body corporate, the JCPD under the Act has a responsibility to develop codes of practice that will provide guidance to society in how to do inclusion of persons with disabilities. So currently the previous dispensation, they were drafted 3 codes. One for education and training, one for employment, and one for healthcare and health facilities.
Can I just jump in here? Are these new inclusions to the Act or strengthening of what has been what existed?
So the Disabilities Act mandates the council to develop these codes as part of the legislative framework that will provide guidance, because inclusion is not something that is, what should I say, automatic, because we have not done it for so long. And so to avoid discrimination, the JCPD is mandated to develop these codes, because although the Act has punitive measures, really what we want is a change of attitude and a change in the culture of our, in terms of our Jamaican culture towards persons with disabilities. We want to ensure that they participate fully in society, and so to enhance, that participation, these codes will be there as a guide as to how to do it.
This brings up an interesting question, or I think an illuminating question. You want to change the culture. I don't think most people know how many such persons this change benefits. Would you be able to give an estimate?
If we utilize the World Health Report of 2011, it gives us an estimated 15 to 17% of the population. And that could be anywhere between 400 or 450,000 persons. Of course, the Jamaica Council for Persons with Disabilities doesn't have even quarter of that amount as yet.
Registered.
But as we embark on the programs of the new entity, I'm sure persons will want to be registered, because there are benefits. There were benefits before, and there will be greater benefits going forward.
Understood. We're going to talk a bit more about registration, but as you've underlined, this is not an insignificant number.
No.
These are many Jamaicans.
Quite a number of Jamaicans.
So let's talk about advocacy. JCPD is an advocacy body.
Yes.
And you have been doing advocacy over the years.
Right.
Can you underline and point out some of the areas where you have done and acted out advocacy, and what are some of the improvements that we've seen?
Over the years, we have, encouraged, because that is what we could do then, encourage the society to understand and accept persons with disabilities as part of, the human diversity, accept persons in terms of employment, do not readily dismiss if someone acquires a disability on the job. We have worked in educational institutions.
Before moving from employment, have you seen a change in the attitude?
We have seen changes in the attitude. I recall back in the day, way back in maybe the 90s or early 2000, persons with disabilities were not in the employment space as much as they are now, or there were not entities, private entities, requesting persons with disabilities to be in employment. We never heard the private sector organization of Jamaica talking disability. Now they have a specific committee dealing with matters of disability and inclusion of persons with disabilities, and encouraging their members to ensure that they, employ persons with disabilities. You would be familiar with the work of, one of the major telecommunication giants here in Jamaica, really employing and pushing matters of persons with disabilities and empowering, their development and so on. And so disability matters have come full circle from being not discussed at all to being front and center, right there in the public space.
Dr. Hendricks, we absolutely have to do some more conversation on this piece, but we are going to go to a break. We have been discussing creating an inclusive environment. That's a task that's being carried out by the Jamaica Council for Persons with Disabilities. We continue the conversation on the other side of this break. Stay with us.
All children deserve positive parenting. Why not pamper us? Be patient with us. Make time to teach us and, of course, play with us. Celebrate milestones with us and don't forget to be our #1 supporter. Do all these things and practice positive parenting today.
Welcome back to Get the Facts. Our discussion continues with Executive Director of the Jamaica Council for Persons with Disabilities, Dr. Christine Hendricks. With the enactment of the Disabilities Act and subsequent regulation, also come the independent operation of the agency. Dr. Hendricks, we were talking about areas of advocacy and what has changed. Talk to me about education.
Okay, so over the years, we have seen a shift or a gradual shift to greater inclusion of persons with disabilities in the education system.
Right.
Of course, there's a special education unit within the Ministry of Education that does their own advocacy and their own work, but we have seen them ensuring that there is greater facilitation of the inclusion, pull out areas for persons who have challenges in the classroom and persons with disabilities. We have seen the Salvation Army School for the Blind. More students who are blind are in, the general classroom. And of course, the Disabilities Act states that no institution, whether private or government, shall prevent a person with a disability from attending that particular institution. And so the Minister of Education and the education facilities have the responsibility to ensure that the accommodations, the reasonable arrangements are made to ensure that persons with varying disabilities get into the classroom and not just being there, but effectively being part of the classroom, learning and going through to their own career development as they move through the system.
Understood. I know we could talk about transportation, healthcare, driving, home ownership, but I want to go somewhere else just for a moment. We have been discussing advocacy of JCPD.
Yes.
Before
the
act passed, before you became a statutory body. Now what has changed?
The fact that the JCPD now having the authority through the regulations to mandate or to ensure that persons with disabilities are not discriminated against. If persons with disabilities feels aggrieved or feels that they have been discriminated against in any area that the Act points out, they can go to the JCPD to make a complaint. And this complaint would be investigated by the body corporate, by the statutory body, and if it is that the matter cannot be settled by, some intermediary means, then it triggers to go to the Disabilities Tribunal.
Ooh, that's a big one.
Yes.
Talk to me about that.
So the tribunal will have a secretariat, and that secretariat will take the matters, present them to the tribunal, which is a body of three-member body that will hear the matters of discrimination and settle them. And according to the Act, the decision of the tribunal is final, unless there's a matter of law where it can then be taken to the Supreme Court.
As director, you mentioned that you were excited, not just happy, but excited. And I can just imagine that the agency will be much more effective.
Indeed. We will have greater staff because the entity will be able to recruit its own staff. It will be able to manage its own resources. It will be able to invest. And so much more will come to the JCPD than, what was there previously. Before, under the Ministry of Labor and Social Security as a department, the ministry had to carry out business on the JCPD's behalf. And now, as a statutory body, the JCPD will be able to carry out its own contracts and its own business, to be more effective and efficient in serving the population of persons with disabilities.
So it's a matter of focus, isn't it?
Yes, it is.
The ministry has a significant amount of things on its plate.
Indeed.
Now, this 15 to 20% of Jamaican population has someone swinging specifically for them in their corner.
Indeed.
Man, that must be very encouraging.
It is. Persons with disabilities have expressed, because they have watched the process from 2003.
Okay, I'm feeling a bit of the excitement as well. Now, right at the start of Get the Facts, we mentioned that there's 15 to 20% of the Jamaican population, but that doesn't necessarily reflect how many people are registered with the JCPD.
It does not reflect it at all. The World Health Organization says 15 to 17%. So that, that will round out about 450,000 or thereabouts, right? So, but the JCPD currently has in its register or database a little over 13,000 persons.
Yes.
That is minuscule in relation to what the population truly is.
I'm not going to do the math on camera.
Right. So we have a mammoth task ahead of us to ensure through public education, through going into the nooks and crannies, through our social workers, that the new entity will now have a social worker per parish.
You can hire yourself.
Right. And so more persons will be reached, over time. And I'm sure with the benefits and with the fact that, an entity will be here sounding your cause, more persons will be encouraged to register.
I want to ask about the benefits, but I want to tie a question to it. There are benefits, but sometimes it can come across as if only if I have a problem do I need the JCPD. So talk to us a bit about why be a member, even if I don't have a problem right now.
Registering with the Jamaica Council for Persons with Disabilities enables persons to get the benefits and privileges that could be accrued to them based on, you know, what the Act would provide for. It enables persons in school, for example, to get certain benefits when they're doing exams, you know, certain leeways, certain, you know, privileges, I may add.
So I didn't even know I needed this.
Right. And so if it is that you do not declare that you have a disability, then you will be treated as the typically developing student. And so benefits that you could get to allow you to do your exams at a more reasonable pace according to your disability, then you wouldn't get that. There is also tax exemption that many persons may not know if they are employed, have a disability, and if it is that the Ministry of Health so deems that the disability is severe enough to meet the criteria of the Income Tax Act, then persons having applied through the JCPD and approved by the Ministry of Health and further approved by the Minister of Labour and Social Security can get exemption from income tax.
Being a member, you mentioned approved by. Being a member of JCPD cuts through that approval chain.
Yes, because we facilitate the process.
That makes it clear to me. We are pretty much out of time. There's so much more we could talk about, but do you have a final word?
Just to encourage the society to embrace persons with disabilities, embrace the Act, the Disabilities Act, know what it says, know how it will impact you as an organization, know what you need to put in place to ensure that your entity is ready, you know, for the implementation of this Disabilities Act, and also for persons with disabilities to recognize that they too have a responsibility.
Right.
You know, they have rights, but they also have responsibilities to ensure that they too do their part to ensure that this inclusion takes place for their benefit.
Dr. Hendricks, it has been a lovely conversation.
Yes, it has been.
This has been Get the Facts. Our guest, as I mentioned, was Executive Director of the Jamaica Council for Persons with Disabilities, Dr. Christine Hendricks. We want to thank you for watching, and until next time, I'm Theodore Henry. Take good care.